Hey everybody, my name is Donna Gorton. Welcome to my show, Willows Bend. Tonight we are going to be covering the strange and dangerous Dabbalist Cave, in Athens, Greece. And so if you see me looking down and over, for those who are watching outside of my group, what is toning? Because I shut all tones off. It's not coming from there, it's my phone. Hang on, guys, because nothing should be toning. All right, now everything is off. So you see me looking off to the side. It's because I do monitor the chat in my group on Facebook, because that's where a lot of my members go to watch. And so hence it's easier just to do it in there. There, no, that's not the right one. So anyway, I have pictures, I have notes, I have Sage, I am good to go. So I'm just waiting for the feed to start in the show so I can acknowledge everybody and say hi quickly before we get rocking. There I am. All righty. And where's my chat? There we are. Hey, Sandy. I got to remember to message you, Sandy. For those who don't know, she's my admin in my Facebook group. I have something I wanted you to check within the group to see if you get the same thing on yours that I get on mine when I tap onto it. So anyway, we'll deal with that later. But hey, Karen. So while Evan's filtering and meandering in, let's do, hi, Kim, the group blessing and all that stuff, because everybody likes me to do that before we get started. And fair warning, I did try to roust the spotted one to go out before the show, and he looked at me blurry-eyed, said hell no, and put his head back down. So there went that attempt. But I did try multiple times, actually, starting a half an hour early to make sure I could get back in time. Hey, Sandy. Sandy 1, Sandy 2. Hi, Mary. Welcome everybody. So with this sage, I cast a circle of protection around anyone and everyone entering my show. Fired up, Sandy, and who will be watching the replay as well. And may that my protection encompass them both within the show as well as follow them into their outside personal lives, keeping them safe from harm, ill will, and harm or ill intent. So I will it, so mote it be. There we go. And the dog can always use saging. There we are, my lovelies. Hey, Renee. And we're just going to stick that up here to smolder out. Go. In the dish, Donna. That's all I need, is to have some fire started in the middle of my show above my tablet. Be like, oh. Oh, Lord, that would be a hoot, wouldn't it? You're very welcome. Yes, I staged you, Jake. You needed it. He's been really difficult the last, I would say, 36 hours. He's taken a couple of steps backward in his behavior, needless to say. So I'd already talked about this. What was it? My reading show on Friday. For those who haven't heard yet, he is still with me. A lot of people mistook one of the posts I made, like I already had to have him put down. I couldn't get him into anywhere, including my old vet, until the 30th of this month. So that'll be the day. But I will do a reminder post, because I know for everybody who watches in Willows Bend that he is really like our mascot. He's become that over the years. So I know a lot of you guys care about him too. So anyway, I'll deal with that. But just want to let you know he is still with me. So anyhow, hey, Marianne. All right. So the strange and dangerous Dabbalist Cave. So where is this? This, because I'd never heard of this before, happening upon the topic. I don't know, somewhere in my research travels, which is 9 times out of 10 how I find topics to suggest to you guys. I come across it while looking up something else and it sounds interesting, so I jot it down before I forget it. So it is in Pendeli Mountain in Pendeli, Greece, about 25 miles north of Athens. And so what is the history of this cave? So the cave was accidentally discovered around the 5th century near the cave. So miners were mining local marble in order to build the Acropolis when they found the entrance to this cave. Hi, Dad. So they happened upon the entrance back in the 5th century. Now, originally the cave was not called Dabbalist Cave back then, but fast forwarding into the 19th century. So the legend goes that there was this horrible guy named, if I can get his name, I think it was named Dimitri Davelis was his last name. And he was a, quote, bandit who, stole all kinds of stuff from a lot of people, like brutally murdered several people, including like kidnapping a young girl and tying her to the top of the mountain that the cave is underneath. The entrance is under. You'll see from the pictures what I'm talking about. That he allegedly put her up there for everybody down in the town to see her up there and hear her screams and so forth, while he bartered to get a higher ransom on her. Just really horrible, really not nice guy. And so it was said that he has this huge treasure hidden somewhere in its depths, which hasn't been found to this day. But that's where the name Dabbalist Cave came from. But it's technically out there in Greece. It's actually called Pendeli Mountain or Pendeli Cave. But it's more well known by the Dabbalist Cave name. So throughout time, the cave had been used as a shelter and was once even considered a place of worship for the followers of Pan, who was the Greek god of the wild, he's the figure you often see as being half man, half goat. And there has been a lot of like pottery and things with his image found on it. A lot of archaeological studies have taken place in this cave due to the artifacts that have been found there. I mean, again, it's been being used since at least the 5th century or earlier. So, what, Sandy? What are you talking about? So the cave consisted of, I'm not sure what you're talking about, Sandy, so I must have missed something. The cave did consist of several vast tunnels systems that ran well into Pendeli Mountain, and it led to a pool of water that was in the center of the cave. So fast forwarding from the 5th century up to the Middle Ages, Orthodox Christian hermits used the cave as a holy site. And they actually have, go Big Red, go Cornhuskers. My dad's from Nebraska who does the Cornhuskers, and Tanya is in Missouri, but she's also a Cornhuskers fan too. So in the Middle Ages, they fell from the year 476 up to about the 1500 BC, or sorry, CE, which is the current era, not BCE. So they actually built a church, like a mini church, kind of beside the cave entrance as part of it, kind of connected to it. I do have some pictures tonight to show you all of that stuff, and I'll get that. Let me take a drink real quick. Go. Okay, so let me find the church here. Oh, I had it all set up. There it goes. Good. Okay. And it kicked me out for a second, but it brought it back. So that's good. So here is the church that was built right into the mountainside there. And it was doubly dedicated, meaning that they dedicated it to two different saints, both St. Nicholas on one side and St. Spiridor on the other. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. So it's just a small, it's not real big. It's, like a one room basically type of thing. So let me show you here, but I can get a hold of it without kicking it out there. Like this here is just a little tiny archway that one can go through from the inside of the cave to come out. And then, one doorway there. So it's just, you know, basically a one room thing. So okay. So the church is dedicated to 2 different saints. So what makes the cave strange and dangerous? Well, I'm going to tell you. So there has been endless tales of paranormal goings on throughout the millennia since it was first discovered. Stories have abounded about things like weird electromagnetic phenomena occurring, reports of water flowing like in different directions, like both forward and backwards, and including uphill. Stories of explorers going in and getting lost and never getting heard from again, which is not at all unusual for a cave system. You know, there's always those that go in and can't find their way out, or for whatever reason they get turned around in there and they get lost and run out of supplies before they can make their way out. So that part of it of missing people, that's not super unusual for caves with expansive tunnel systems. Hey, Stace. Hey, Nancy, I hope you got my private message. I said thank you for your donation. And so there was a small handprint was also found near the entrance that has no explanation as to time frame or where it came from. I did use that photograph in the show reminder notice, so I don't have it on the tablet to show you guys, but it's still in the group. So if anybody hadn't seen it yet, it's that handprint that's shown on the wall in that photo with the show reminder picture. So nobody knows who made it. So there's also been reports of odd sightings of different creatures, kind of like ghostly forms, that sort of thing, experiencing strange events within the cave. Many had come to see for themselves, but did not venture inside to see out of fear and superstition of what they're going to encounter. Now, here's where it starts to get a little weird, all right, or weirder. Round about 1979, I believe it was, 1977. Now, it's unknown who exactly was behind it, if it was the Greek government, NATO, or if it was some unknown powerful organization, I'll put it that way, who were going in to see for themselves, did it have anything that they could use of value to them? So they just showed up in 1977 and like put up barbed wire and armed guards who would turn people away when they turned up to come and check out the cave for themselves. They weren't letting anyone enter. They brought in heavy equipment and like dynamite. Like you could tell they were going to be working on expanding a lot of the tunnel systems that went well back into this mountain. And this went on until 1983 was when they finally just seemed to disappear overnight. Like they just left, and they left a lot of, I just got kicked out of Facebook. How does that even happen? So like people, you know, would still show up and kind of watch the activities of what the whoever they were doing. Personally, I think it was government related. There we are. But they never fully identified themselves as to who exactly they were. But I think it had to be like military type of stuff of saying, hey, after all the reports that have come out of this place, is there anything here that we can use to gain an advantage? I don't see who else would be behind it, but they were like creating and expanding tunnels and so forth. But all of a sudden they just disappeared, leaving behind heavy equipment. And like the barbed wire had holes cut in it, like showing people had snuck in, but the guards were gone, the whole 9 yards. So they just like left half their stuff there. Like they left suddenly and unexpectedly, but it's unknown why. No one has ever claimed responsibility for being the ones behind the one, you know, bringing in all that stuff to do the work. So that's odd also. And so to this day, any alterations that they did, so like what they did is they went into basically blasting all these new tunnels in place and expanding existing tunnels. But then before they left, a lot of them were cemented shut, so you couldn't access them. So to this day, we don't know what is hidden behind those, like the walls, like a false cement wall was put up to block the entrance into those tunnels. So there really are no tunnels left behind by them to this day. Now there is like one spot, I guess, that has like a partially finished wall, but that's about it. Most of it's not. So I got a couple pictures. So let's see here. Let's go. All right. So this is essentially where, like, the mountainside that the cave is in for the entrance. And again, that's all marble. I mean, there's some inclusions, of course, but it is marble. And that's where, way back in the 5th century, they were mining the marble to build things throughout Greece, and the original remnants of buildings and such that we still see standing, some of them today. And that was what the Acropolis was built from, came from this place. So this had value from way back when. Let's see. Okay, so here is like a picture from inside the entrance looking towards the entrance. I'm getting up there, see at the right angle there. Okay. Aaron's going to be disappointed because he's missing pictures, but I can't help it. It's his fault. So here is like, I'm hoping it'll show up on camera, but it'll give you a sense of the size. Way up here on the ledge is a little guy. That's kind of to show you the size wise of the site and the entrance. So it's a fairly big entrance opening for a cave, but that gives you a sense of like how big this place is. It's just a little tiny guy. So we don't even know, modern day, we don't know just how far back and where all these tunnels went to, or what the military specifically was looking for, because they never owned the fact that they were looking for what they were looking for. So the first picture I showed of the church, this shows the rock face it was built into, but also gives a sense of size for the opening of it. Now, whether the opening was expanded any by the military or the organization, we'll say it that way, okay? Because I don't know, honestly, but nobody knows who's behind it. So we'll say organization, quote unquote, if it was expanded any or not from its original size, but it is really huge. So you can see in the image, I'll get it angled right. So here is the church. Over here is church structure. And all of this here is, over to this side here, that's the entrance to the cave. But that gives you an idea too of the size, because you already saw the image of the cave itself, or sorry, of the church itself. So it is huge, yeah. I mean, I would have, of course, absolutely adored going exploring on that and throughout that place, the original cave structure. Yeah, I love that stuff. Very huge. So I'm going to just show you the first picture again, because it'll make sense when I show you the next one. So remember that little breezeway I was mentioning in the first image? So we have a picture looking down it from the inside of the cave. Here we go. So this is on the back side of that. It's just like an arch, basically. There you go. So that's just on the inside of it looking out versus the outside looking in. And here's an explorer who is just kind of reveling in being in there, I guess. He's just happy to be present and showing the light from the entrance coming down in. I mean, even with what is still accessible, it seems like a really cool place to be, like to check out. I could, and not that I'm going to travel to Greece anytime soon, but it still looks like a really interesting site. So here's one of, is it the stalactites that come down from the ceiling to the floor? But here's one of those, and I apologize. This is actually the better, if I can get it in the right light, the better of the two images. I struggled with getting this photograph so bad last night. It was driving me crazy because any angle I tried catching it at, it overexposed the image, and it was driving me nuts. It wouldn't capture it well. And, okay, right there, Donna. So even that, it's got to be massive, massive, massive. Hey, Lori. So I think what this picture is of, I think it's inside the cave. It wasn't labeled, of course, but I think it was inside the cave and kind of one of the smaller openings, like crawl spaces, because there are still, I guess, crawl spaces you can get into, but they just don't lead anywhere, and they certainly don't lead to where that center pool of water was in the center of all the tunnels. That's not accessible anymore, but there are still smaller spaces that you can get, cavers can get into. It's a tight fit. So this is, I think, one of those holes. This was another one I struggled to get a screenshot of. I'm trying to get the lighting. Well, you can kind of get the gist of it anyways. And I apologize. Like I said, I worked my fanny off I had this thing moving all over my table with the different lighting on it, different heights, to try to capture it so it didn't look overexposed, because the actual image, you can see all the detail of all the stone and everything else in it. It just didn't capture well in the screenshot. So at any rate, those are the bulk of the images that I found online about them that were like the better ones. Now, here's why. Because of the odd electromagnetic wave interference stuff that seems to be a natural part of the cave system or the area itself, that it, like cameras and things just don't work right there. So a lot of things that have been experienced there, they aren't able to capture on camera because their cameras and things malfunction. So, but as far as like, again, when like it was about 1977, when this organization moved in and started doing their thing, people reported seeing the heavy machinery there and dynamite for digging deeper into the mountain. But it did, whatever they did there, it did not benefit the public because they were blocked off from entering into any of the tunnels. They expanded, like they dug in deeper. Nobody knows exactly for what. I personally, after doing the research, wonder if they weren't trying to figure out what was behind all the electromagnetic differences and seeing if there wasn't some way to perhaps harness that, because like NATO, they were involved in all of the nuclear bomb testing stuff. And that's a proven fact. So were they doing some forms of nuclear testing within the mountain? Maybe. I mean, we don't know. And the extent of what kind of alterations they made is unknown. You really would have to get in there and like blast out the concrete that they filled it in with. And it's of course you don't know how deep, of a wall it is, if they just covered the wall of the opening of the tunnel they made, or did they bring in, that would be an immensely massive amount of concrete to bring into the site in order to fill the whole tunnel up. But who knows? They could have even caused them to cave in and then just filled the opening so it's not, you can't get through there. I don't know. But it is now considered a historic site. But in the past, when all this was going on, it wasn't. So that's exactly what they're doing. Seeing if there's anything. Yeah, exactly, Sandy. That was my take on it. Is they were saying, was there anything of value that they could use for themselves there? When like I said, it was based on any documentation that has been found on it. It did seem like NATO was a high suspicion it was one of them was NATO, which serves to say it probably was the military of some kind in there as well with them. We don't know.
Put them in your room.
And we're going to go back to some of that in a minute, to touch on more of that, of like some of the other strange things that happen in association with what they were doing and things that they left behind. But some of the research, I didn't happen upon some of it until like the very end of the notes. And rather than going back and rewriting all of them, because I handwrite them, as you know, we're going to just go back to it. And it does play into where I put them. So we're going to make it work. All right. So Paranormal Exploration. In 2015, Demetrius Mockridopoulos, there we go, Mockridopoulos, was an investigative, he was an amateur at it, but he was an investigator, paranormal investigator. He decided to visit the cave and he brought a spirit box. For those who are not familiar, which I know most of my Willows Bend folks probably are, but a spirit box is like a device that it flies through different radio stations, like really 1 second in each radio station. It's that fast. So it just keeps cycling through them to create almost a staticky white noise background to it. And so that whatever you get coming through is not thought to be radio station as much as a possible means of communication that it's said that spirits can use that to communicate with. So he brought one of those with him, and the newer ones, yeah, I know the static sound bothers me too. And I think of it as, I don't need that stuff because I can talk to them just fine on my own. I don't need a loud, staticky, obnoxious sounding device to do it with. And I can do it a little bit more effectively one-on-one than I can by playing a staticky, loud machine. But for those who can't, they can be set to AM or FM. They can also be made to cycle backwards through the stations. So as if you get all the way to one end and you start cycling backwards through them, but it's done at such a high rate of speed that it's to kind of rule out that it's not radio station noise you're getting through on them. I do have the necrophonic because I was curious about it, but even some of that's not as accurate as, well, I know it's not as accurate as what I get conversing with them myself, but it's interesting. Yeah, definitely like nails on a chalkboard. So the necrophonic is an app that you can download from the Google Play Store that costs a couple bucks. Doesn't really work. The spirit box, I mean, I've seen them used in different on site in other supposed haunted locations, and they do seem to get accurate, answers in response to questions put through to them. But it still is annoying to hear like the staticky noises coming through in between the talking. So, hey, Erin, unfortunately, my darling, you missed all the pictures already. See that's what happens when you're late. See? Have to watch the replay if you're interested. But so in 2015, Demetrius Mockridopoulos, let me go, if I say it fast, I don't stumble over it. He went in and he had a spirit box with him that he took for equipment, as well as like a camera. And he had a couple of his friends with him as well. And he reported that as soon as he and his friends walked into the cave, he lost control of his 5 senses. And that is one of the common reports of it, is that it disorients you. Now, electromagnetic waves are said to be able to do that to you, to some people who are more sensitive to them, that they can be very disorienting, that they can cause headaches, dizziness, in some cases hallucinations. And it's thought that a lot of people who claim to see spirits, that's really what's happening, is they're being impacted by electromagnetic fields. Not saying that can't happen to some people, but investigators often will want to rule out that being a source of the sightings, etc. If it's in a location like power boxes, when you blow a fuse. So fuse boxes can put them off high electromagnetic fields. Everything has its own electromagnetic field, but some of them are more expansive. And the electromagnetic field for the site of the waves from it is massive compared to most places. And it's unknown exactly why. You did miss all the pictures, Aaron. See? Should be more on time, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it, son. I'm just saying. So much I can do. Okay, so as soon as he walked in, he reported losing control of his 5 senses. He said that the spirit box activated on its own, meaning it turned on by itself. And he said it captured sounds like angelic children chanting in Greek language. He ID'd the chanting as being like, as part of the Greek language, but he also said he thought it was the language of pixies. Now, I didn't know that pixies spoke Greek, but according to this gentleman, this is what he said, that he thought it was the language of pixies. Demetrius also took with him an infrared camera, and he recorded some ghostly images. So there were a couple showing like an unexpected kind of misty cloud form over front of just inside the entrance of the cave that wasn't said to be coming from any source known to them. It just kind of was there. I did try to get a picture of it, but it wasn't turning up on camera at all. So on my tablet, it wasn't picking it up well to separate the mist from the background of the cave. So I just said, screw it. But it would just look like kind of like a foggy mist that was over in front of the inside of the cave. So he said that he did take the infrared camera with him, which recorded some ghostly images. And apparently the image showed a pitch black background with a tiny creature hovering around the entrance of the central tunnel of the cave. Skeptics, of course, debunked all of his claims of there being anything paranormal there, including the electromagnetic problem experienced within the cave. Now, one can go and explore for themselves, but there's no public transportation, for one, that goes past the Neopentelli village on the lower slopes of the mountain. And there are no guards or gates or anything there to help if you get in trouble while you're up there on the mountainside. So it is very much at your own risk. If you should go missing, like there's nobody to have your back. So if you're going to go, definitely go with people type thing. But you have to have your own way up there. It's a long hike, from the bottom of the mountain of the village. Now there is like a rocky dirt road leading up there, but not everybody has cars or whatever. So and they do say to be respectful of the cave, leaving nothing behind when you leave, which is pretty much for any site within nature. Don't leave your stuff, trash behind. Visitors have also reported electronics going out of control, glowing orbs, water dripping upwards rather than down, evidence of possible satanic rituals having been done, which, considering the god Pan that was worshipped there, a millennia ago, Pan is also still a deity in the pagan faith. So are they mistaking satanic rituals for pagan rituals? Maybe, I don't know that. I didn't see what they had as signs of them or evidence of it, but suffice it to say, they were calling them satanic rituals. And so I think, it probably was a mixture of both. And sometimes there are remains of animal sacrifice that is located like by the mouth of the cave. So that happens occasionally up there too, sadly. Makrodopoulos, there we go, I gotta say it faster, I can't get it out right. He said, quote, exactly, Karen, everything's satanic to them. So again, without me saying it to say for sure and differentiate between satanic versus pagan, I don't have there were no photographs I could find that showed what they were calling satanic ritual stuff. So could they have been pagan because of Pan? Yes, obviously. And Pan is not a satanic deity. So I know, Aaron. I knew you were going to say that if you came tonight. So the Makrodopolis guy said, quote, "From the minute I stepped into this unspoiled and pure place, I became one with it. I was surrounded by an inexplicable otherworldly energy. I felt eyes following my every move. I could not see or hear anything with my five senses, but I knew." Voodoo, right? For all we know, they were performing a play. You know, we don't know. There was one picture that had, it sort of looked like a white candle that was a melted blob that looked handmade, and you couldn't see anything underneath it of any symbols or anything. So I don't know what that was supposed to prove. I know some people see that a candle being used, left the remains of a candle being found on site somewhere, and automatically it's a satanic ritual, which it's not. It's people misunderstanding the difference, but I saw no evidence to say to you guys one way or the other which it was. So Makrodopolis, he also later reported that after exiting the cavern, just how thorough the government and NATO had been at blocking the tunnels up with concrete. Right? Case closed. Yeah, I know, a candle, exactly. That's what it is. A melty blobular candle. Yep. So satanic. So he later did report how thorough they had been at, concreting up the tunnel entrances. There's even been rumors suggested, again, nuclear testing as a possibility if it was NATO. And that stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So whatever they were doing in there, it's safe that they, a safe bet that they got all out of it that they could of what they wanted before sealing it off. They, that's probably why they left. Although I do find it's interesting that they would just leave behind the heavy equipment and stuff. So suddenly, almost as if something drove them off site. Saint Silver Trade, you guys are funny. I know, it is silly. So what does science say regarding the Dabbalist Cave system? Sorry, my allergies have been horrible the last couple of days because of mowing and the humidity levels here. So the Institute of Geology and Mineral Exploration of Greece does agree that it has unique geological properties that impact the electromagnetic field and waves. There is slate that's enriched with graphite between the edges of the pentalic marble that makes the mountain a good conductor for it. It is known that a sensitivity, like I said, to electromagnetic fields can impact individuals. So one has to, I guess, test it out to see for yourself. Are you sensitive to it or not? If one is to go there to visit, like, don't go there if you are sensitive, because you're going to be affected by it. The marble itself has certain properties that can give it an electric charge under high pressure conditions that they said could explain some of what Makrodopolis had experienced there. Storms are pretty, yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Sandy, was that as far as the electric charge, that is what they were referencing. I didn't find any other better way to explain that, but there is another unusual thing that has been picked up there, which I'm not sure how to take it. I did research it and I didn't find a good explanation that seemed to fit for what it talks about, but we'll cover that in a minute. And you'll know what I'm talking about when we get there. But so what this geologist said is, quote, "What we don't understand, we ascribe to myth, is their view about any oddness about the cave." Makrodopolis, he maintains that he felt a gravitational pull toward the cave the day he visited, like he felt pulled through the entrance and drawn like he had to go in. He was planning a return trip after assembling a more experienced team to go in with him. So other strange findings from the cave. So there was, and oh Lord, this was such a source of frustration to me in this research. There was they found at some point, I don't know when, and I don't know the cause of it. I couldn't get any pictures of this. I mean, I went even to the museum site that it's held at, not a single picture posted anywhere of this. So I don't know any information other than they did find a natural mummified body of a woman that came out of the cave. I don't know what time frame she was from. Like the environment of the cave naturally mummified her remains. So I don't know when she died or otherwise. There was no information about that anywhere. And I searched across 2 different search engines last night throughout the whole thing, trying to come into the museum site from different angles under a multitude of different phrasings and wordings for it. Just couldn't find anything else on her. All artifacts found from the cave can be seen in the Archaeological Museum of Athens, and the body is at the Museum of Criminology in Athens. And I went to both museum sites as well, and I just couldn't find them. So I don't know. Hey, Natalie, how you feeling, lady? Like I said, I spent over an hour last night looking for just that of how what time frame was she from? How did she die? You know, those types of things. And so as the cave, like it had an increase in popularity. Exactly. That's what I was looking with, Karen. Exactly. Bing and Google. And yeah, I figured if I couldn't find it after all of that, there wasn't any images to find. So, so as people's interest in paranormal activity and paranormal happenings increased and the Dabbalist Cave became more widely known because of the myths surrounding it started growing and all the stories surrounding it. I mean, again, it goes back to having been found actively by Grecians back in the 5th century, but you know, it's been there obviously for 1,000,000+ years. And who knows how many used it beforehand for shelter, etc., before they found it. In the 19th century, people have claimed to hear mysterious voices coming from the far corridors of the cave. Music has also been heard, both without a source to have it be coming from. As UFO sightings and belief in UFO sightings grew, more people started making reports of having seen those around the cave site, having like UFO sightings be seen. So that's been going on as well. Any attempts made by investigators have been hindered by failures of technical devices like cameras, flashlights, and even strange behavior reported about the investigators. Did they donate her body to research or give her a proper burial? Well, all it said, Erin, was that a woman's mummified remains were found and that her remains are held at the Museum of Criminology. So because it's the Museum of Criminology, I'm thinking they felt she died from foul play, but no indication whatsoever how she died, what time frame she came from, or otherwise, just that her body was found in the cave and it had been naturally mummified by the environment of the cave. Other than that, like nothing. I could not find anything on her whatsoever. How old she was, nothing. Just the body of a woman was taken out. So completely unknown. So I would assume that, you know, they took her, they probably did some sort of an autopsy and then donated it to the Museum of Criminology for display. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I mean, there was no information about who she was or otherwise, or how old she was. I mean, if she was ancient, which is a possibility due to the age time frame on the cave, she could have been of ancient origin, or she could have been one of the victims of that bandit who had the last name of Davelis, that the cave was kind of nicknamed after. It could have been one of their victims. I mean, I don't know. So there was nothing out there on it. I'm guessing too, part of it's because of the remoteness of this site that, there's not as much social media, there's not as much mainstream like city activity in and around that area. So that type of stuff isn't going to receive the same amount of media attention as it would in, say, the US. The US loves that type of stuff, and we would make a huge production out of it versus, way up in the boondocks of a mountain in near Athens. So other strange reports that come out of there include, so there's one account of a couple going on a hike that they found a car perched on a ledge by a cave in a place that seemed impossible to reach. So I'm thinking it may have been at the top of the ledge of the cave that I showed you. I don't know. There were no photos, of course. So it was just that which it seems like they could have taken pictures. It wasn't in the cave. It just said that it was perched on a ledge by the cave in a place that seemed impossible to reach. So they returned multiple times over several days, and it was still there. Finally, they made their way up to the car and found the car had no marks or any damage that would be expected of a car that was driven up to such a hard to reach place that it would have like taken out the undercarriage of the car to get it there, or any scratches on it from any brush, whatever. No marks on it whatsoever. It just was up there. Could it have driven through a portal for all we know? We don't know. It was just seen up there, perched. The wife, she suddenly looked into some bushes nearby and she began screaming hysterically. The husband had finally calmed her down, and she said she had seen a white oval-shaped creature with two enormous glowing eyes, and that it was about 2 feet long. Thelma and Louise came through the portal, right? Who knows? Yeah, very odd stuff. So the husband didn't see this creature she saw in the bushes. However, he does report that he did see the brush moving as if there was something in there moving, but he didn't see the actual creature she described. Now, days later, they were, because I guess odd stuff happens like in the vicinity of the cave. It's not just inside the cave. So that whole upper area around the cave, weird stuff is said to happen. So something that looked like a spinning black sphere was outside his car window, which caused him to start screaming hysterically. And that by the time the wife got him to calm down and describe what he said, they realized how incredibly insane it sounds, but they still held to their story that that's what they encountered. So in regards to the work crews that showed up there, so like I said before, we're going to touch back on some of that. So here's some more oddities about that stuff. So in 1983, work crews, quote unquote, disappeared as mysteriously as they'd shown up in 1977. Originally, they'd put up barbed wire around the cave, and anyone showing up would be turned away by guards that were posted everywhere. Some left behind their equipment, and it was just abandoned. However, the ancient church and networks of caves were left severely damaged by whatever they were doing in there. Several artificial concrete corridors had been dug, but some were left only partially finished. And all of the tunnels and things like that they may have dug just led to dead ends. So they didn't come up with anything on that front anyway. So of note, in the 1990s, another attempt was made to modify the cave, but it got shut down by the Greek Ministry of Culture to prevent any further damage to the site, because it is should be a protected site because of the age of it in the church. So it got shut down for being important historical site and archaeological site. After decades of searching, investigators are no closer to explaining the strange happenings in and around Dabbalist Cave. It's been speculated of the odd electromagnetic fields, what was behind the unknown, but suspected military involvement and interest with the cave. Like I said, I think that it probably had something to do with that, of what their interest was with it. And who knows what, they were digging all these other tunnels and expanding existing tunnels. So they were looking for something, they had to be, but was it the source of the electromagnetic field? I'm not sure. Tourists report cameras being oddly affected, such as photos turning out with an odd green haze over the face of the person being photographed, cameras refusing to work in certain areas, only certain areas of the cave. The photographer's hands and camera itself would appear in the picture the research said, like as if the person had taken a picture using their eyes. So it was almost like, their hands and the camera itself would be shown versus just like looking through the viewfinder. So odd business there. Let's see. You probably said, but where is the cave located? It is located in Pendeli Mountain, which is about 40 miles north of Greece, Athens, Greece. Nancy, that was for you. Also, images of people that are photographed, they saw themselves twice as their actual bodies, and then there was a representation of themselves looking like it had been carved into the rock formations behind them in the photographs of it. Oh, you're very welcome. So in other words, like, if Bobby Joe was here in the picture, there would be another image of her like behind on the wall behind her, of her image cart looking like it was carved into the wall of the rock in the picture itself. Well, the cave itself is still open, Aaron. What are you talking about that it was disrespectful? So like those weirdness photographs would turn up are oddly noted too regarding the workers. Later, many of the workers who had been on site doing whatever they were associated with from whatever organization, they later died of cancer. And oddly, many boxes of an anti-cancer drug was found abandoned with their equipment. Like they just found bottles and bottles of an anti-cancer drug. So I think that whatever it was, they knew going into it that it could cause cancer. Or if they were doing nuclear testing, then perhaps they were giving them these drugs to help them stave off, radiation poisoning. We don't know, but many did go on to die of cancer, but then they found many boxes of this cancer drug just abandoned on site, left behind with their heavy equipment. So very strange. People digging in the cave system. Yeah, no, like I said, that part was, yes, that was put a halt to with whomever was behind it. They shut them down. I think that in more modern day time frames, ministries of antiquities, meaning basically those who head up archaeological dig sites, etc., they do have a little bit more power than they used to have, because we have heard in recent times a lot about like in Egypt, the minister of antiquities in Egypt saying no to allowing further investigation of certain parts of the pyramids that have been discovered, even by using the least obtrusive method possible to explore like a tiny hole with a camera inserted through it, or a remote vehicle running into this area that is, like a toy car with a camera on it, that type of thing. That's not going to cause any damage to the site. They've not allowed any further stuff of that, and they've been having the power to be able to do that. So they've been given more power than they once had. Well, that's what I'm thinking, Marianne, and to me that kind of lends credence to possible nuclear testing being done under there when if NATO was involved with any nuclear testing in there or whatever, they knew it caused cancer, because again, all these boxes of cancer med were found on site with the equipment left behind. And I find it very odd that either of those things would be left behind, their heavy equipment as well as the cancer med. Like, who would? It does kind of lend credence that they left in a hurry. So whatever drove them out perhaps happened unexpectedly. I don't know. No, I agree, Erin, absolutely. So, also found with the workers, what the workers left behind, and investigators, when they returned in to kind of resume paranormal investigations on site, they found child footprints. And I also spent an exorbitant amount of time searching for photos of this and could not find any. A child's footprints were found imprinted into, so like some of the places that they were like trying to create concrete corridors or halls within like some of the tunnel areas, while it was still wet, while the concrete was still wet. These had to have been made at that time before it dried, but a child's footprints were found in the dried concrete. So like a barefooted child walked through it while it was still wet, walking up to a wall of the cave. So it didn't say whether it was a concrete wall or a natural rock wall there, but it did say, welcome back, Nancy. It did say that they just ended suddenly. And that they, let's see. The footprints led to the wall of a new tunnel where the original wall hadn't been blasted through yet. And their prints didn't show them walking back out again to leave the cave, like they had vanished or went through the wall. So they were like, they led up to it. And like I said, it looks like they had to have been made while the cement was wet. So it showed like a barefoot child walked up to the natural rock wall of the cave and just stopped there at the end, like right face to the wall, and then disappeared. It didn't show them walking back out of it again. So we don't know what was behind that either, but that's an odd story to say the least. Again, I couldn't find any pictures of that, but if cameras malfunction to that degree within there, would pictures turn out if they did take them? Makes me wonder. So rumors also of dark shadowy forms have been seen in the cave as well. And oddly, there was a story about a creepy doll that had turned up on such an inaccessible spot of the ledge above the cave that it took an Army Special Forces member to retrieve it, and not without great difficulty. Like even he, being special trained, had trouble reaching this doll to get it down, and that the next day an exact duplicate of it turned back up in the exact same spot, and it's unknown as to who hung it there. So that's also kind of an odd thing to have happen, obviously. Will you stop doing circles around me, please? Thank you. Yeah, definitely creepy. I know, right? And didn't say what the doll looked like or if it was a handmade doll or not. It just said they referenced it as a creepy doll. Even the road up to the cave has had strange reports. So despite the road up being fairly steep, because you're going up a mountainside essentially to get to this cave, reports have been numerous of cars stalling up, but then going on to roll uphill rather than back downhill, or pushed by some unseen force or pulled in, which interestingly, the gentleman that Dabbalist guy, who was the investigator, he kept saying he felt inexplicably drawn and pulled towards the cave. So could that same electromagnetic force have an impact on the cars? Maybe. I don't know how else to explain that. Get your balance before you move and jump, please. Or you're not going to have it end well. Be careful. I'm not beating y'all now, so don't even think that. So many investigators have had who was in, like, when they go into the cave, they come back out appearing very dazed and confused, reporting lost time, panic attacks, and rumors of some of them not returning at all. One report is of a car going up, like, so that they found a set of tire tracks in the snow going up an impossibly steep slope that had, like, they can't explain it. No actual car would have been able to drive up. Like, I'm guessing it was like the cliff wall by how it described it, and that they were found in the snow. It's also been noted a strong smell of ozone at the entrance of the cave. Ozone can be very damaging to one's respiratory system and also go on to irritate the skin. And it's unknown as to how or why it would be present there. Now, there are different things that cause ozone to appear. Not everything is known about it. So ozone is part of what protects us from the natural rays of, like the ultraviolet rays of the sun. But like ozone can be drummed up during like a lightning storm as well, like, so that would have to have like a high electrical source. It can be created artificially. It's kind of like made through changes on a molecular and atomic scale with them to change how oxygen is appearing, basically. I'm gonna come take you out, Jake. See, I knew you were gonna do that and get up before I was done. Not an ozone hole layer, but it's been detected basically in the entrance of the cave, like just around the mouth of it, I guess. Very strange. So, I mean, I am by far not any sort of an expert on ozone, but from what I could garner about it, it does seem like it was changes to, on an atomic level, it changes how oxygen is processed. And that is what causes ozone to appear here on Earth. But there's a number of things that can cause it to occur. Go ahead and I'll go take you out. Come on, move out of the way so I can get there. I can't take you out if I can't reach the door, right? But again, yes, a very strange spot for it to turn up at the cave's entrance. I mean, I did actually look up several different possible ways I thought of how to explain it, and I could not come up with anything that sounded remotely really rational or reasonable about it. Even if there had been just like a electrical storm, it would not explain it just being detected in and around the entrance of the cave. Go ahead. So, yeah, go ahead carefully, Jake, not falling. Okay. Hopefully the door won't force shut. We already talked about the annual sacrifice that's been seen and found there. It's raining out. Reports of creatures resembling sheep that have, like, people see creatures that look like sheep, and then when they approach them to get close to look at them, they disappear. Which Pan, being half goat, half man, you know, he was said to be like the deity of basically sheep and livestock animals, like herding. Oh, hang on, baby. Watch out. I can't open a door if you don't let me reach it. Yes, little girl, I left the door wide open so you can just run out into the wild. Yeah, go ahead. Out of the way, madam. So those apparitions have been seen as well. I don't know. So which kind of would say to me that at some point the cave system was probably used as a shelter. Perhaps, you know, people moving their herds in there from a storm or something. Going way back. I mean, again, it first became aware of it as a site back in the 5th century. So it's obviously ancient. And, well, that was a way of life for many people who lived rurally in Greece at that time. or farmers, you know. So let's move this forward here. There we go. Hi. Okay, I didn't take my phone because I couldn't manage all three things. Let's see. Yes, I did see that as far as the ozone machines and the research and stuff, and also in air fresheners, things like that. But who is going to take a can of room spray up by the entrance of a remote cave on a mountainside and just spray the inside of the entrance of the cave and then measure it? Like, didn't quite make sense. Ozone is, yes, exactly. And although to some people it smells very chemical or metallic and smell, but it is very bizarre. Absolutely. So, so what do you guys think? I mean, that's pretty much the basis of all the reports that have happened in and around there. Not a lot of hard physical evidence has been found yet, but then again, if electronic equipment, Jake, that was a stupid thing for you to do, honey. Come on, back up. I can't move my table back any further out of your way. Really? You know, you can see that the fan is blocking the doorway from you getting in there. Thank you for not knocking everything over. That's why you don't belong in there. You see it's blocked, don't go in, right? That's correct. Sorry, he just almost got himself stuck, and he's not been good at reversing himself. So, it is, from what pictures there are of the cave, it looks like an awesome site that I would love to explore if given the chance. Not that I'm flighting off to Greece anytime soon, you know, or jetting off to Greece, but if I had the opportunity, I love caves. So what do you guys think? Haunted, or the effects of the electromagnetic fields impacting people that the geologist suggested as the explanation for all of these kind of wild and crazy out there reports of things? I still say children got killed and lifted away. Well, there were reports of those bandits from the 19th century having killed some kids there. And you know, taking them, kidnapping them and holding them for ransom and stuff. But I think it's really kind of creepy odd that the children's footprints turned up in, it would have had to have been wet cement in order to grab the shape of the child's footprints, right? The cement would have had to still been wet and not dried thoroughly yet. And that they showed it walking up to the wall of the cavern and then just stopping and disappearing. So like they didn't show them leaving again, like turning around and, you know, walking back out of the cement. It didn't show them taking a shortcut off the side of the cement. They just stopped and disappeared. One set of prints walking up to the wall and stopping. The main reason I didn't get it, I don't have good luck. The ozone machine, yeah. You need to move so Jake potentially can get up without getting yelled at. Thank you. Go ahead, you can get up. Not cat food time, not even close. No, come on up. So what do you guys think? The electromagnetic field impacting people, or aliens is one suggestion, or do you feel like, you know, it's haunted caves? And that all these bizarro reports are true. You know, I mean, I know electromagnetic fields are also part of portals and things, and I do firmly believe in portal systems. But I think that could account for some of it. Jake, you mind? Don't eat her. Just don't. Come on up. I'm still doing my show. Don't be a jerk while I'm on the air. You got a goopy eye. Yuck. And gets a mixture of all. Yeah, I think that, again, if someone is highly sensitive to electromagnetic fields, there is very much so a really strong electromagnetic wave effect up there. That whole, I can look to see if I shut the tablet off. Nope, I didn't. Oh, you got lucky, guys. Well, you got lucky, Aaron. So let me find the right picture I'm looking for here. Okay. So here's the cliff wall again, that the cave system or the cave entrance is near that. So as you can see, that's pretty massive. It goes higher than a pine tree there. And again, it is a mountain. So it's, extremely huge. And even the entrance of the cave is huge. So there's a lot of graphite and things in there. Throughout that whole site, it's got to be a massive electromagnetic wave with that large of of it coming from that large of a space. It would have to be a tremendously large electromagnetic wave. So even if one isn't atypically affected, could they still be? Yeah, maybe. It isn't. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be. And only through experience. Not finding. Oh, there it is. I did take it out. So is it high up? Yes, Karen. It is up. Like it's on the face of try that again. Entrance of the cave is part of Pendelly Mountain. So you have to kind of go up from the Pendelly village at the bottom and kind of go up, there's like a really, really rough rocky road leading up to there. So I did see a couple pictures that had a couple cars that, like they talked about cars getting stalled out on the way there. So there were a couple images of them stalled out on the road up there. You guys stop crawling on me. You get up or don't, because it's your choice. She's going to stop pacing in a minute because she needs to. You can get up or not, but I'm not fighting with you. I'm not. So get up on the bed or don't. Not feeding you, no. I know, right? I wish it was closer. I don't think it would be just from the altitude though, Karen, because is Katie saying something? Okay. My screen blanked out for a second there. It's just in the entrance of the cave that a strong smell of ozone, it says, to the entrance of the cave was detected. So someone smelled it. So again, to some people, it does have that, fresh after the rain smell, but to others, it smells very chemically and like burnt chemical smell.
Hasn't got anything.
So yeah, I can't explain that one either. And trust me, as a former, off and on investigator myself, I am well aware and well versed in looking for ulterior reasons behind things that happen, of trying to find alternate explanations for things. I don't automatically jump to, oh, it's haunted as an explanation for things. Do I think that the electromagnetic field that's there, being that it's so massive, have an effect on some people? Yes. However, it's not going to account for tire tracks going up the side of that cliff in the snow. I mean, come on. Or that car that couple being found like kind of at the top of that cliff, unharmed, unscratched, and just sitting there. Like there's no way up there. There's no path or the road does not lead way up there. So it's just, some things are completely no logical explanation. So,
but by the end of the day, everything was all good. And then by the end of the day, he got really stroppy and he went in.
I cannot hear you, Katie. I'm barely hearing you. I don't know if you guys can hear in there, but I can just barely hear you.
Just went ready to pack up for home time. And
I don't know if she accidentally turned her mic on or she's speaking to us, but
and when he did pick it up.
So again, like this is just so you can get a sense of the structure size. This is the church that was built into the rock. This here is the whole cave entrance coming all the way down there.
And he went in.
So it's pretty big. You should, yes. Here, Katie.
And so a teacher had to stand by him and supervise him, and then
yeah, I can just barely hear her, so I didn't know if she was actually talking to you guys or not. Granite leaves odors too. That's why you have to seal your countertops if you have granite. Oh, interesting to know. Huh. Yeah, we can't, Katie, if you're talking to us, we can't all fully hear you unless you accidentally turned your mic on. partially.
Daryl's teacher actually spoke with me before he came down the stairs. And the
Katie Kamara.
teacher,
I'm thinking she maybe accidentally turned it on. Katie,
are well aware that, you know,
she must be on the phone or something.
works.
I can try shooting her a message real quick. Give me a second, guys.
It's now like there's always
Thinking she must be on the phone.
always something that he's been doing.
Katie, whoops. He can hear you in background of my show. There. Hopefully that'll ding her. Yeah, it's like I can't fully hear her completely, but partially. Jake, come on and get up. Jake, come on. Hey, pay attention. Come on up. So anyway, yes, she's doing like speaker call. Okay, stop it. So I think it would be interesting to do a Freedom of Information Act request about that site to see, because that would at least validate if it was the military or not involved. Oh, she says her mic is off. We're kind of hearing you like you're talking in the background, Katie, but it's really low. Like I can't fully loudly hear you to understand what you're saying unless I lean in real close. They're hearing you too in chat, but can't quite fully hear you. Just saying. I don't know. But I think that could be interesting to do of a Freedom of Information Act release to or request to see, was it the government involved in anything to do with that? Because they would have to release something on it. Even if most of it was blacked out, it would be, you know, at least showing some involvement with the cave, which would at least be kind of validating from that time frame. Other than that, I don't see how else to validate it. Yeah, that was weird. We all could kind of hear you, Katie, just very low. And I mean, it's kind of like, are you talking to us? I can't completely hear you if you are. And they all started answering in chat too that they couldn't completely hear you. It was very low sounding, but we could hear you talking in the background. Don't know, lady. I don't know. We're hearing you talk in the background. So weird. Hi, Candy. Yeah, we can't hear you anymore. Unfortunately, you pretty well missed the show, lady. I start at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I think that could be an interesting idea anyway, to submit a Freedom of Information Act request to Greece to say, was it you guys who were involved from 1977 to 1983 with Pendeli Cave, and see what came back on it. Now, they can refuse to I guess acknowledge a request, not acknowledge it, but refuse to release something if it's in, what do you want to call it? Would compromise any safety with the military stuff, like don't give away military secrets type stuff. But as far as if they had some involvement there, even if, again, most of the documents ended up being blacked out, if something would come back if it was them. I don't know about finding out about NATO's involvement unless they left that in part of the documentation of it, but it would be interesting to find that out, to see if it was in there. Yeah, welcome, Candy. We're just kind of winding down and kind of wrapping up, getting ready to wrap up the show, unfortunately, but you'll be able to watch the replay in a few minutes. So anyways, I think it could be a mixture of both, that the cave has such long running history to it, and with having a natural water source at the center of the tunnel systems, that would have been ideal to be used as a shelter, and perhaps even long term. And it was said that the guy, Davelis, who holed up in there with his, I guess it was about 70 of them on his posse, if you will, holed up in there for some time, using that as their hideout. So it is something that could have been sustained long term because they had a fresh water source. but it said that somewhere in there where it was possibly hidden this massive treasure that had belonged to him and his people. But yeah, I guess he was involved in doing a lot of really, really bad things to the villagers and such. Little girl, you know what? I don't want your nails catching on this fabric because you're going to tear a shred in it. And then I end up with a giant hole and then I can't wear it anymore. Will you please get up, Jake, instead of standing there because your legs are in horrific shape because of how you've been the last couple days? Ignorantly, but you know, don't listen to me. So and anyway, we have no way to confirm or refute who it was that was doing all that stuff back then. But again, I find it highly suspect that they would just leave behind all their equipment and those cancer drugs because those things are expensive, you know, and massive quantities of it too. So whatever they were doing had to be cancer inducing, but for them to leave so suddenly that they would not take their stuff out of there again, that sets off a red flag to me. So whomever they were, and it wasn't good. All right, so the next Willows Bend we have will be September 20th for episode 158. Jake, come on up on the bed and stop standing there. Your legs are not good. Little girl, you got to move because you are blocking him with intention. Come on, passive aggressive girl. Come on, Jake, get up. Come on up. Get up on the bed. All right, so I did add a couple new topics for the week because I realized we really only had 2 left. One of them hadn't had any votes on it for the last few weeks, so I ditched it. The other, so that left just 1. So I did add a few new ones tonight just to keep it interesting. So my tablet didn't shut off. Let me do that because that makes it take a little longer to recharge it before I put it away. So it's good to go next time I need it for pictures. Come on up, Jake. Don't space out. You get back out of bed. Come on up. Get up on the bed. Now. Good idea, right? So the topics for next show, we have bizarre cases of mass hysteria. That was left over from last time. Reports of apportation, which is the sudden appearance or disappearance of objects not made by like somebody in particular. So like kind of a spirit moving something or taking something out from an environment. So reports of apportation, deathbed visitation, or psychic archaeology. And of course, any of you are welcome to make any suggestions as well. And then there'll be one more Monday show before Willows Bend After Dark starts October 1st. Oh, and I did check with Katie, guys, so you know that she will not be available to record our Willows Bend After Dark shows. So that'll be just me going live within the group like I always used to do, just so you know. So just come here to the group, not going to Soma Fusion Media Network to access the show or YouTube. Just be in the group for that. Okay, because I know some of you, if you have trouble getting into the group to see the show on air, you'll go to Soma Fusion, but she's not able to do it because of scheduling conflicts. So just have a heads up on that one. All right, so Sandy Griffith says apportation. That's getting a lot of votes. Natalie says apportation. Erin says apportation. Nancy says deportation. Psychic archaeology, Tanya. Mary says psychic archaeology. So again, we have bizarre cases of mass hysteria, reports of apportation, deathbed visitation, and psychic archaeology. Just did, Lori. Did you hear them? Nancy says apportation. Karen says archaeology. I know, doesn't that sound interesting? I mean, I would think it would have somewhat to do with telemetry because of, you know, where you can put your hand on, or not telemetry, sorry, psychometry, where you can touch an item like a solid wall, whatever, get information from items. Still like mass hysteria, that's okay. We'll put that down for you, Lori. Marianne says apportation. That one's winning so far. So we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you voted. Oh, no, Mary, I got you because it's the only one that has psychic in the answer or in the name of it. Sandy Miller's the psychic archaeology. Okay. Well, we have 15 people watching and we only have 5, 9, 10 votes. So 5 people haven't voted yet. So if you want to have a vote, please speak up now or forever hold your peace. You do that, don't you? I do that. Yes, Tanya. I did it actually out at the site the Paracon was at. I always forget the name of that place. I don't know why, but I've like blanked out the name of the site that we had Paracon at. But at any rate, I did it there last time. So mass hysteria for Renee. Mineral Springs, thank you. You know, that's it. It's not a hard name. That's all right, Ted. We're actually wrapping up the show, but you still can have a vote if you want. Psychic archaeology says Candy. Can you please repeat? Yelling at the TV. Bizarre cases of mass hysteria, reports of apportation, which is like removing an object or adding an object into an environment by typically spirit activity, deathbed visitation, or psychic archaeology. Come on, Jake. Come on up. You cannot afford to keep standing on your legs, so please stop your spacing out and get up. It's not cat food time. You're not getting it at 9:30 at night. You keep trying to push the clock back on that. Yes, we are voting on next week's show topic. Come on. So, bizarre cases of mass hysteria, reports of apportation, deathbed visitation, or psychic archaeology. Have you done anything on the Black Pyramid in Alaska? I don't think I'm aware of that, Sandy, but we can put it on the list. Black Pyramid in Alaska. Okay. Got it. You pick all. Well, we will get to them eventually. You know, we always do, but unless the topic's not getting votes for a few weeks in a row, then I'll drop it. Like I just dropped the reports on man-eating plants one because nobody had voted on that in like 3 weeks. So I ditched it. Dad says anyone. You're no help, Dad. You know, I know you like to be the tiebreaker. I'll give you that prop because you're my dad and I let you get away with things that other people may not. Stacy says psychic archaeology or apportation. Okay. Well, we're almost at a tie here. We got one more that would make it a tie. Ted reported apportation too. Gotcha. It's in the triangle right up there. Huh. Yeah, surprisingly, I've not heard of that, Sandy. But now you make me curious, so I may have to look it up on my own anyway. All right, so as it stands now, reports of apportation is the winner. Speak now or forever hold your peace. So it's 5, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, I guess we got everybody. Okay, we got everybody. So reports of apportation is the winner for next week. Well, you know, dads get props and you're my dad. So, you know, you get a little perks with the job. It's not easy being my dad, you know. Thank you, Sandy. And Sandy, what I was going to ask of you, if you could, if you've noticed on the tabs and the row of tabs underneath the show, the group photo of Willows Bend, there's a new one on the left side that says classes. However, when I click on it, all it says is something went wrong. Please try again later. So I don't know if it has something in it or not, or what. I mean, I'm assuming that if one was to do classes, they would be stored in there, but there's no options open to me on there anyway. So I was curious if it shows anything, if you were to click on it to let me know that. No, we're happy to have you, Natalie. Thank you, Dad, and to everybody else. So reports of apportation is a topic for next week. And Wednesday night, we have book group, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We are still on the nature of personal reality for that book. So we have not finished that yet, just so everybody knows. So yeah, I will see you guys next Wednesday night then for book group. So have a wonderful rest of the night, guys. Thank you all for coming. Love and light to all of you, and have a blessed rest of the night. Love you. Thanks, guys.